Right, well, welcome. Oh, it's loud. Welcome, everyone, to the first day of Block Talks, which is a series of panels and interviews intended to show you how Web3, NFTs, and the metaverse are expanding in the world of culture and art. My name is Marissa True. I am the host of Tez Talks Radio, the global Tezos Ecosystem podcast. I'm also the head of content for TZ APAC, and it's my pleasure to be your host today. To kick things off, I'd like to introduce our first honored guests of the day. They are Thibault de Procé. I hope I said that correctly.
You said that correctly, yep.
Co-founder and chief product officer of Vyking. We also have Matthew Klimpke.
Yep, that's correct.
Excellent pronunciation for me, to pat on the back. Co-founder and CEO of Vyking. And last but not least, Marius Morhard.
Yeah, that's correct.
Crushing it today. Lead 3D technical artist at Vyking. So welcome, gentlemen. How are all of you today, this frigid Austin morning?
Freezing.
Yeah. Honestly, I thought Texas would be a little bit warmer than this, but
yeah, we all thought this was a desert, but hey. So today we are going to be talking about Flex, a unique NFT marketplace. And so for that, we want to start at the beginning. Thibault, I want to ask you, how did the three of you actually meet, and how did you come together to enter this space?
So that's an excellent question. So we met actually with Matthew 6 years ago. We originally started in a business in AR filters, but more for the face. It was based in AR technology, and then we decided to focus on an AR try-on technology, technology that we integrated inside apps like Adidas, Louis Vuitton, or New Balance. And then, things evolved in the digital sneaker world because we were in it actually since day one. And we met Marius actually at a conference about developers in Berlin, if I remember well. Yep.
yeah, it was the We Are Developers conference in Berlin about 3 years ago. But back then I was still busy working at a different corporate. And yeah, so it's only been recently that I joined Vyking and Flex. Started working with these guys in November last year. And before that, I was working with a company builder developing AR and VR solutions for deep tech and industry 4.0.
So it was a fairly serendipitous affair of the three of you coming on together. And I think one thing that people need to understand a little bit deeper is what is this augmented reality try-on space? Like, what was this space before, we get into this world of blockchain and NFTs?
So, I mean, I think from years ago, people remember the first Snapchat filters with the dog filter. So that was the beginning, I would say, of like consumer AR. So it all took off with these face filters. And we, as Thibault mentioned, we were actually creating like some of the lenses for these first filters. We had our own face tracking solution that it was integrated into a bunch of different apps so that we could run these sponsored lenses inside those apps. And then we were looking at what was going on in the cosmetic space, in the eyewear space, and we saw, okay, this is a very, very cool way for people to shop. Instead of just looking at a static image on a screen of a product or seeing a video of it, we thought, okay, this is actually a way to use the camera, use the device to really let people virtually wear the product. So we looked at what was happening in face tracking, then we thought, would this be possible to have a virtual try-on solution for shoes? Could we do the same thing? And then with Thibault and with Stefan, our third co-founder, we said, okay, we can do this, but we need to build out a data set for this. So that involved we've got over 200,000 images of people's feet, different angles, different backgrounds, shoes on, shoes off, different distances from the camera. So we had to build that data set out manually, which took a long time. And then on top of that, we then had to label every single image. So that was, building out the data set, and this is how our virtual try-on solution works. The underlying data set is made out of hundreds of thousands of labeled images. So it's a very long process, but it's allowed us to get to the point where we are today.
And it's the weirdest thing to do, to get pictures
I
of
was just
feet.
about to say,
Yeah.
so the data collection on images of all kinds of feet must have piqued a few people's
Our friends have a really weird image of us.
raised a few eyebrows for sure.
Also, for clarification, I guess most people who are involved in the AR space know that traditional AR solutions work a bit differently. We are working not with feature point recognition or anything like that, but we actually have an AI that tells us where feet are, the pose, and transform matrices for the foot so we can actually position the models there, which is a different take on augmented reality than most people have. But the benefits of this is obviously that we have a very lightweight solution that we can also deploy in all types of environments, especially on web, which increases the accessibility exponentially in compared to traditional augmented reality applications.
So that was essentially Vyking in its first iteration, but today at Blockspace we're looking at Flex as an installation. So can we go into a little bit more about what people can expect when they interact with this and how it differs from what Vyking does?
So everything that we do with Vyking, so for example with Adidas, with Crocs, or all these manufacturers that we work with, people are using augmented reality as a way to get a feel for what the product will look like before actually buying the physical product. So it's like digital to physical. Whereas with Flex, they're buying digital sneakers. So this is like there is no physical component here, and this is the vision that we have with Flex is a future where we are all wearing augmented reality glasses, and of course we're still going to be wearing clothes and shoes, but we're going to be overlaying wear them in augmented reality directly. They can dress pictures up using the platform that we have. And as I mentioned, this is really just the first step towards a world where we do augment the entire body with all sorts of NFTs.
So how did you develop this technology for Flex as compared with what we just talked about with Vyking?
So the whole platform was developed in-house. It works as a a website where you are able to collect digital sneakers, and the whole platform is powered by the AR try-on technology that we developed with Vyking. So every digital sneaker on Flex is available for AR try-on. You just have to scan a QR code, and once you purchased one of the NFTs, you unlock a feature when you can upload a picture of yourself. And our AI that Marius was talking about is able to detect where the feet are on the picture, and you can flex the picture on Instagram and flex your digital sneakers.
So the sneakers will be basically positioned and lit and rendered on top of the traditional photo that you will import, and then you can use that to basically post that on all different types of social media or share it with friends, so that you actually have more value out of the digital asset than you'd regularly have.
Okay, please go on.
I mean, as Thibault and Marius just mentioned, the focus with Flex is really on bringing utility to your NFTs. So any fashion NFT that you have, like if you buy, I don't know, in the real world, if you buy a pair of sneakers, you want to wear them. Like if you buy digital sneakers, you need to be able to wear them as well. So that is where it's very much everything on the platform is really focused about augmented reality and bringing that utility to the NFTs.
Also, the idea, where you can say that we're trying to work with blockchains in different situations, also only to bring the digital assets and NFTs into augmented reality, but also hopefully to connect with other digital spaces and to enable like an interoperability between all types of Web3 spaces, whether they are augmented, virtual, or anything in between.
So it's a lot of the intersection of emerging technologies and kind of seeing what the bigger picture is going to be. But before we get to that, and I want to take a couple steps back, and I want to ask you each why exactly you felt compelled to lean into this metaverse NFT space to begin with. What was it about, this decentralized world or blockchain technology that appealed to what you were doing?
So, I can, that's my opinion, but I think we more or less share most of it. as Matthew said, we started Vyking as a brand B2B business where we license our tech to brands. And the big opportunity with the metaverse and the NFT sneakers is that we can give back power to creators. So, in the digital world, you can go as crazy as you want. You can, as it's digital, you can create, we have a sneakers collection, which is basically sneakers made out of snakes, which definitely you can't wear in the real world.
Not yet, anyway.
Well, you might have some health issues if you do that. But yeah, that's what I like. What I prefer about it is that it gives back power to creators. So any creator, like any person with 3D skills or great ideas, can actually create their own designs in the metaverse, and they can push the boundaries.
Just to add on that as well, as a digital creator myself, this is something that's very true, especially in, there are a lot of spaces have been opened up for digital creators already, whether it's, fashion with the accessibility of screen printing and direct-to-garment printing. People can produce their own clothes and stuff like that quite easily. Now with, all printing possibilities, you can, print and distribute your regular artwork. But as far as sneakers go, since the actual production of a sneaker in the physical world is extremely expensive and not very lucrative as an individual creator, it's very difficult to get any foothold in the space. And
no pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended. So for the longest time, creators in this space who were just really passionate about sneakers, there was no real way that they could get access to the actual business and ecosystem of sneakers apart from being involved with larger brands. And as we all know, there's a couple of difficulties that come with trying to get involved with big brands. And I guess Flex is a way to avoid these things and to give people who are passionate about creating sneakers and creating digital art and a gateway into actually being able to monetize their art and share it with people.
Okay, then I think we need to take one step even further back still, which is actually to just offer your own personal definitions, because it is a very much a theoretical concept of the metaverse. Like, how do you each see it, and how is that enabling this empowerment of the creator? Matthew, we'll start with you.
I mean, I would say that the metaverse is any online place where we spend time and we have some form of identity. So, I mean, obviously gaming is a big one. Social media to Instagram, people curate their image there, who they follow. This is for me already part of the metaverse. Even things like, Zoom, people spending a lot of time on Zoom. So that's already, this is a very basic form of the metaverse. There's not a lot of interactivity going on there, but I would say we're already, spending a lot of our lives. A lot of people are spending the majority of their lives online now. So that for me is the where the metaverse is today. And in terms of the next how Flex fits into the metaverse, I think we're helping people to express themselves in the metaverse with digital fashion, with unique designs, really, as Thibault and Marius mentioned, it's a creator first platform. So we're dressing people up for the metaverse with anyone anywhere in the world can be a designer for Flex, and we're really lowering the barrier to entry to become a creator and launch your collection.
It's my turn. No, for me, how I see the metaverse. It's a digital kingdom, right? So yeah, Zoom and any video games actually fall under that. I think the big challenge that we're going to have for the metaverse will be a digital layer for the physical world, which will be an ultimate AR metaverse in itself, because people will always live in the physical world. We're not always going to be with our Oculus Rifts, and so we're still going to need to be, in a certain context in the real world, but everything will be enhanced with digital content. And so I think this is the metaverse that, with AR tech, that will be soon a reality.
I agree with both Thibault and Matthew, especially the idea that, a digital layer and some sort of the metaverse already exists. There's a lot of people who have pure online identities, especially when you talk about a gaming background or something like that. People live and thrive in these communities. and they're basically more important and more relevant to them than anything that happens in a physical space. Same goes with social media and all these different things. As to touch on what Thibault said as well, I also agree that extended reality is probably going to be the version of a connected world that we're going to be living in. Extended reality in comparison to AR or VR means that basically spaces will exist in physical and in digital form, and that's going to be agnostic to which way you want to interact with them. You could either go there, visit a physical space. You could also visit it through, your phone and AR glasses or VR glasses or something like that. And I think that's why, for me, the metaverse primarily is less about a specific platform or a specific design, but more about the general idea of complete connectivity and interoperability, so that it's a place where we're probably going to be headed using technologies like universal file descriptions for 3D worlds and stuff like that, so that it doesn't matter what applications you're using, what technology you're using, everybody can access and view the same things.
So then off that, we're looking in terms of incorporating what Flex and Vyking are, is this role of fashion in the metaverse and enabling this self-expression. But what is the broader mission there? Like, what is it about fashion that's so integral to this space as well?
And the fashion is actually limiting, because I think it will go beyond digital fashion. It will be about digital augmentation. So, you could have flames around your body. You could have any type of enhancements that you would have. So I think it's really key for people to completely go as far as they can, with their creativity. Today, if someone is wearing a shirt a bit too bright with a pink a bit too bright or whatever, or crazy colors, people will be like, "Oh my God, I don't dare this. I wouldn't dare this." But actually, in the digital world, people could wear the craziest stuff. And this is the really cool thing about the AR metaverse, and this could fall under digital fashion, but it can actually be much more.
Yeah, I think just fashion itself is a pure form of self-expression, and we can see that in digital spaces, especially trying to individualize yourself is just going to be as important as fashion helps to individualize yourself in the real world. Particularly in gaming, you can see this, that there's people who spend a lot of money and a lot of time into modifying and creating unique versions of their avatars, and so because they feel more comfortable, they feel more free this way, they feel like they are more represented as a person in that space. And I feel like that's just whether it's physical or it's digital, that's always going to be extremely important for people to be able to express and individualize themselves.
So if we were discussing the role of fashion in the metaverse, and then we spin that on its head, and then we look at the metaverse and fashion, what do you think that this is going to enable in the traditional fashion world in terms of pushing these boundaries? And is it just going to be about, going a bit more all out, so Lady Gaga's meat dress suddenly looks a bit plain as compared to snakes on your shoes, etc.? But how much is this going to push the boundaries of what's possible in fashion?
You already have some really good examples of what happened in the last year. You had, for example, Balenciaga launching a whole collection in line with Fortnite. So you could dress up your avatar in Fortnite, where I think it was a Balenciaga hoodie, and they actually sold that hoodie in the physical world. So they completely blurred the lines between a video game presence and the real world. You have also brands like Adidas. Adidas did a big partnership with the Bored Apes. You have also Gucci, who's really into the metaverse. You have some leading brands which took the challenge to get in that space in the last month. But I think for me the biggest one was Nike, by acquiring a company called Artifact, which was the first digital sneaker brand. So basically they put that brand on the same level as Jordans or Converse, but this brand will be for the metaverse, which is crazy.
So I definitely agree that definitely companies and brands and stuff like that will be more involved. But as far as traditional fashion design goes, I think that there will be just a lot more ideas that will kind of come from digital fashion that will maybe, with increased technologies like 3D printing and stuff like that, will maybe be more able to translate into the physical world. So I do see that there probably will be the designs that are going to happen in digital spaces will heavily influence probably also the fashion that we will be wearing traditionally. In addition to that, like Thibault had mentioned before, augmenting garments using AR and all these other technologies, I think will also be key in future. And it'll be interesting to see how traditional fashion will adapt to all these new technologies and ideas.
Would you like to add to that?
I mean, there's also, so with the, like, with the clothes that we're wearing right now, as technology advances, as we have the glasses, then all of the creators that we have on Flex, for example, as they're creating these augmentations for digital clothing, I think these are going to be the partnerships of the future. We've already seen that with Adidas. So they partner up with the creators from like these like the digital fashion creators. They're leading the way. They're showing the brands what can be done. They're creating their communities, and then these brands from the physical world are just partnering up. And this is the way I think it's probably going to develop as well. Is like the creator first, and then they're going to, just tag along in a way.
So then what actually makes blockchain and NFTs so fundamental to this space? Why is that such a critical point in all of this development for innovation in fashion?
So it's paying out creators, which is like a revolutionary, I think, for all these big brands. This is why the artifact case was interesting, because all the early believers in their brands and who purchased the first NFTs, they actually had a royalty system, and they benefited from every sales happening on the secondary market. Which, when you have a designer designing a shoe at Balenciaga, I'm not sure anyone would be able to name any of the footwear designers, but they did spend a lot of time actually designing, and there was a lot of work input. And I think it's reversing a bit the power dynamic with NFT, because then everything is traceable, and we're able, basically everything is transparent.
Additionally, when we just talk about the core functionality of NFTs, which is verification of digital ownership, I also think this is something that is very key, especially when we're going to be building a universally connected digital layer, or the metaverse. And just the ideas, the possibilities that can be done with this technology are kind of endless. Just imagine being able to take your favorite clothes or skins from one game and wear them in a different platform, or to be able to kind of have this unique look of your avatar that you can kind of transport and transcend different platforms, different applications, so that you can really be you in every single part of the digital world.
So how did this manifest into Flex, and what led to the decision to integrate with Tezos technology specifically?
I mean, so when we first started to think about Flex, which was about 3 years ago now, we weren't thinking about blockchain at all. So we were thinking, okay, we've got this amazing virtual try-on solution. In the future, we believe that people will buy digital shoes. So it was just an idea that we had back then. And then as we started to think about this more, we were introduced to blockchain, and then we were looking into different blockchains that supported NFTs. And Tezos, as a proof of stake blockchain, is much more environmentally, it doesn't have the same impact as other blockchains do. So if we're trying to solve a lot of the problems that there are in the real world with digital fashion being a solution to potentially to how all of the bad things that happen with the social problems, environmental problems that come with fast fashion, digital fashion also needs to address those environmental issues, and Tezos was a natural choice because it is inherently much more environmentally friendly. So Flex's ethos is sustainable digital fashion, and we're doing that on a sustainable blockchain.
And I just wanted to add that it's really important for us to make digital fashion accessible to everyone. So those minting and gas fees, which can be really high on Ethereum, are, like, I don't know, times 10 divided by 10. Sorry, my English, but like it's totally accessible for anyone, like anyone with any budget can actually afford digital fashion on Flex.
So to look into more of the fact that we're focusing on sneakers as the fashion piece, the accessory, but also in a way a collectible, is that is that a component of Flex? This collectability of these shoes?
I mean, of course. I mean, in the real world, people they're very emotionally attached to the sneakers that they collect, and it's not just like it's not just an investment. It's also like an emotional thing, and we want to translate that collector mentality into the metaverse as well. And I mean, the one good thing that we always say as well is that you're not going to ruin your sneakers in the metaverse. Like, they're not going to get scuffed. So, plus the fact that they're NFTs, like, I think it's that collector mentality is still going to exist in the metaverse.
So I think that's one thing that actually poses a challenge for a lot of people, is the mental leap of value in a digital space. So I don't know how far along in this you've thought about it, but how do you translate that idea that, if you are to own a pair of Flex sneakers, they are as precious to you as the limited edition sneakers you do have in your cupboard that you're too afraid to wear in case you scuff them?
I think that's something that's also going to happen naturally. The more people actually are involved and spend time in digital spaces, the more natural it's going to seem that these things also have value. I also spent some time working in gaming, and I also have a strong gaming background. And like I said there, it is like commonplace for skins to sell or even to be collected. I mean, Counter-Strike has skins that go up for 150K and stuff like that. So it's just something that will, I guess, also happen more naturally. But as of now, I still think that because people who are curious about digital spaces and new technologies and trying to figure out how these new technologies can actually infiltrate and change these cultures that they're and communities that they're currently part of, that will also be, for now, maybe just a curiosity, but I'm sure that will evolve to like a very standard thing.
So in a way, we're all actually catching up to the gaming world because the value of skins have been there.
True.
Regardless of blockchain technology, they're way ahead of us. We've just implemented new infrastructure for it. So then to look more into where you go next, like what's next in the development pipeline? Obviously, Flex is just launched, so it's a bit early to be asking, but I'm sure you guys have a vision in mind.
So we're starting with sneakers because we've been in the digital sneaker game for 3 years now, and we're already looking at other parts of the body. So we want to. It sounds dodgy.
This data collection thing's getting weird real fast.
No. We're looking into like full body tracking technology to support full body outfits or digital enhancements. It could be grills, it could be backlavas. So we're going to go beyond sneakers and beyond footwear to really cover, your whole appearance in the AR metaverse.
I mean, in terms of the sneakers collection that we have right now, this is something that we've been discussing, and we know it's feasible. We've been talking about this with Marius. So you've got the snakes around you've got the virtual sneaker shoe right now, but in the future we want to connect that up with physical clothing, so that you can use like image targets to create maybe you own the snake NFT, and we can do an airdrop of that. Like we send you a digital enhancement for a T-shirt that we'll send you, and when you hold your phone up to it, that will be the snake coming out. And ultimately, when we do have AR glasses, that will be okay. You've got you have your digital sneakers, you have the digital overlay there, and you have the other items that are associated with that NFT that you're also able to wear. So it's, we're able to have use AR body tracking to augment the rest of the body, and then also use other things to make your physical clothing come to life.
And in that, I guess everyone gets a few wardrobe changes without actually having to go home and change.
Exactly.
Just change it on the fly.
And the really cool thing, because at the moment, we're still in AR technology is very much onto a subjective, you can only see the AR content on your feed, or if you use like a Snapchat filter. But in the future, when the AR cloud will be properly built, people will be able to see the digital fashion garments that you purchased, and they will be able to see you with what you chose to be seen with. And this is going to be a huge breakthrough with
all Instagram group photos are going to look different, assuming people are still using Instagram at that point in time.
Who knows?
Okay, so then if we turn this conversation slightly again and we look at the creators that you're actually collaborating with, how are you sourcing them? How are you coming across them? And also, how are you building this compelling image of what they should be doing in this space as well? Because I'm sure there's a bit of a learning curve to a guy who just wants to design sneakers in the physical space.
I mean, yeah, that's people that are designing sneakers in the physical world. I think that they're very much trained into, okay, this is going to exist in reality. So I think that, for example, when Marius started, you just looked at it from a very different perspective. It's like, okay, I'm designing for the metaverse, and it is. I mean, he can talk a bit more about that, but it's we want to show people with the collections that we make at Flex, what's possible, what can be done. Like really, just like showing the creativity and showing how to like use the technology to just go completely crazy, and you can do whatever. So I think there is a little bit of a change in mindset that's required if you are like a normal footwear designer for the physical world.
Is there a difference between, I mean, I'm sure there must be, I'm going to ask what that difference is between designing sneakers for a digital space versus designing sneakers for a physical space?
Yeah, I mean, very much so. Designing a sneaker for a digital space, in theory, like Matthew had said, you have a lot more creative freedom. And it's this, especially for traditional footwear designers, it's very hard to break out of that box. Traditionally in footwear, if you want to go over and beyond, it would be, extreme forms and stuff like that, and kind of like using abstract forms or shapes to kind of break the traditional silhouettes of shoes. But in the metaverse, in AR, a shoe like in our Snakers collection, it doesn't have to be a shoe. It could be whatever. It doesn't just have to be abstract forms. It could be. There is literally no limit to the creativity what you could have in this space. But also, as just for technical situations and technical workflows, when you're designing for something in the metaverse, there's obviously, you do have a lot more freedom, but there's also things you have to bear in mind while you are creating, especially that is conforming to these certain interchangeable 3D formats, which do have their limitations on themselves and by their own, so that you can make sure that the assets that you create can be used by everyone, anywhere in a digital space.
So realistically, what kind of learning curve are we looking at for a traditional sneaker designer?
Well, the learning curve is actually way, I don't know how to say that in English, but it's easier to learn how to create digital sneakers than to actually have a factory to actually produce physical pairs in a proper supply chain. So I guess today you need 3D skills. I mean, you can talk about better. But, I mean, Marius is he's our lead creator for every collection we have on Flex.
So, I mean, there is a slight learning curve, obviously, and this particularly does entice to the fact that in a metaverse, the way we will be visualizing the 3D world is going to be over real-time rendering, and compared to most designers, most people who work on Instagram and stuff like that, they do traditional offline rendering. As a small explanation, offline rendering means that you will be drawing an image over multiple minutes or hours, which will usually result in a very realistic, high-fidelity image. Whereas real-time rendering, things have to be drawn up to 60, maybe 90 times a second, which requires a lot of technical tricks to actually make that possible and to make things look good. So there is a small learning curve regards to that, but all the creators that we do onboard, we do take time to kind of help them out with these things. But then after you kind of spend some time with these things and adhere to some best practices, usually people have an easy time to create for those spaces as well. But yeah, that's probably the main thing which a traditional 3D designer would have to bear in mind when wanting to create anything for the metaverse, for that example.
So looking farther forward into the future, when a lot of this tech is fully integrated, is advanced and sophisticated enough that any sneaker designer has the tools readily available to them to produce, 3D renderings of these shoes. What kind of world do you want to see in this digital space? Like what kind of fashion or subculture or new culture do we want to enable through this technology?
I think the really cool thing is that anyone could become a digital sneaker creator or a digital fashion creator. So we are also partnering up with some artists, some musicians, who don't have any knowledge in fashion, who don't have any knowledge in 3D, but they are able, with the help of 3D artists, to create their own collection. And I think this is the really cool thing about digital fashion, is that it's actually making it easier to actually launch a collaboration with a brand or to launch an actual collection of different digital products.
I totally agree. I also think what is very interesting is that digital spaces in some sort also kind of create these safe spaces for communities and creators. I mean, there is a lot of stigma that is involved, especially with the traditional fashion industry when it comes to, having to have a certain network to get involved with things. Also the idea of superficiality that's going to go in there. And a lot of times these biases and these stigmas can actually keep people from creating. And, the thing is, anything can be fashion, anything can be great as long as there are enough people there to support it. And maybe this is also going to be a world where fashion is not going to be determined by like a global consciousness that agrees on a few certain styles, but as long as there's like a small subset and niche of people that enjoy something, that can also be expressed and that can also be fashion. So I'm really looking forward to seeing a space that is also freed from like this kind of trend ideas that are being set by a global market at the moment.
So it's the enablement of greater creative expression and creative freedom. But then are we looking to replicate components of, I guess, traditional sneaker culture into this digital world? Or do you guys have a different idea of what this should be? Matthew?
I mean, I think we want to create the next generation of fashion brands, the sneaker brands, through Flex. But as Thibault mentioned, it's nice that anyone with any level of skill can potentially come to Flex, create their collection. It could even be something that you want to give as a present to a friend, that you create a sneaker for them and you gift it through Flex. This is you don't have to be building a brand. It's like it becomes a lot easier to be creative, and there are lots of different use cases for it. So but I do think that collector mentality and that sneaker culture is going to be present in the metaverse as well.
Yeah, because I guess it's not really down to the technology or the platform, it's down to the people that use it and what they want to use it for.
Exactly. And the people we work with actually kind of shapes, also the vision that we have for Flex. We decided to only work with one footwear designer, and all the other designers actually are not from the footwear world, because we really want to show that it's accessible to other types of profiles, because I think that's a common mistake. When you go in digital fashion, well, you try to replicate the physical world. Well, which is it's a pity, because this is your chance to do something completely different.
So we've only got about 5 minutes left on the clock, and I'm going to ask quite a cheeky question, which is, how many sneakers do each of you guys own, and are you collectors yourselves? You can be honest.
Yeah, I own about 10, but I have a problem. So I like to buy cool sneakers, but I like to wear them. So I don't actually leave them in the box. I like to flex with them.
Same thing here. I also have, I don't know, maybe like 15 pairs of sneakers, but I wear them a lot. They're scuffed. And also for me, which is kind of a pity, which is why I'm looking very forward to digital fashion, digital sneaker cultures. I have very large feet in special editions, usually never come over a size US 13. I'm a US 14, so I have to miss out on all the cool sneakers that I always wanted. So I'm hoping that Flex will give me the opportunity to actually participate more than I'm able to do now.
It's that inclusivity angle we discussed.
Exactly.
And Matthew, what about you?
It's the same. I've got about 10. I wear them, so they get used, and in the future, like same as Marius is saying, like it would be cool to just have those AR enhancements on the sneakers and then just like rotate those as much as you want, because you could have thousands. You could have thousands of like these augmentations, which would be NFTs that you'll just like you'll decide to put them on one day, and then there'll be a different one. It's a very, very cool future ahead.
Well, with that, gentlemen, I think we've covered a lot of ground. So thank you so much for your time and your perspectives.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And for everyone else who's tuning in, wish you could experience the flex space for yourselves. But for everyone who's actually going to be here today, enjoy. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.